Thank God it's Friday. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to 55 minutes of current and irrelevant business conversations right here on Business Morning. I'm Indy John McCann. We start as usual from what's going on in the global oil space. Prices edged slightly lower after Israel and the Palestinian militant group signed that agreement to cease fire in Gaza. We saw a red color for Brent this morning, 0.54% down, while for WTI it's also down, but 0.42%, $61.21 a barrel. Israel and Palestinian militant group, they've signed that agreement to cease fire and free Israeli hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners in the first phase of U.S. President Donald Trump's attempt to end the war in Gaza. Crude futures are in a corrective phase as the Israel-Hamas conflict looks to be ending, according to the Senior Vice President of Trading. And these are some of the issues that are driving oil prices this morning. Then we come to Nigeria, where the Nigeria Incentive-Based Risk Sharing System for Agricultural Lending, NIRSAL, has reported that bank credit to the agricultural sector rose to 5.33% of total lending in May 2025. According to NIRSAL, the figure marks a steady improvement from previous months, reflecting increased confidence in the sector and the impact of ongoing interventions to de-risk agricultural financing. The organization attributed the growth to enhanced collaboration between financial institutions and agribusiness stakeholders, as well as government-backed credit guarantees and capacity-building programs. NIRSAL says that it remains committed to expanding credit access for farmers and agripreneurs through risk-mitigating tools and innovative financing models aimed at boosting food production and achieving national food security. The Nigerian Postal Service, NIPOST, has slashed logistics costs for more than 20,000 micro, small and medium enterprises, those are MSMEs, across the country. According to NIPOST, the initiative is part of its renewed effort to support small businesses, enhance e-commerce growth and boost nationwide delivery efficiency. According to the agency, the reduction aims to make courier and parcel services more affordable for entrepreneurs, especially those leveraging online platforms. The NIPOST management notes that the cost-cutting measure aligns with the federal government's drive to promote local production and ease the cost of doing businesses for MSMEs. The agency adds that it will continue to expand its partnerships with logistics and digital commerce platforms to improve accessibility and coverage for small business owners across Nigeria. And then a look at the numbers, closing numbers for the market yesterday. We hit the 146,000 level yesterday and sustained that at the close of trade, as we see 0.33% up for the all share, and the market cap is now getting close to 93 trillion, 92.798 trillion naira. For the activity yesterday, it was more of red, but we saw value was able to stay green, 27.42 billion. Top gainers, Caverton, Unisol, and Lotus Hall, were the top gainers. Top losers, FTN Cocoa, Tantalizer, and Fidelity Bank were the top losers. But the movers of trade yesterday, Fidelity, Dangote Cement was the market mover at the close of trade yesterday. Sterling Bank also contributed a whole lot to the sentiment in the market at the close of trade yesterday. Away from the markets now, the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, their export promotion group, they held their annual export dialogue in Lagos with a focus on difficulties in export trading under multilateral trade agreement. The event brought together key stakeholders from the manufacturing and export sectors, representatives of governments, ministries and agencies, as well as members of some corporate organizations to address persistent challenges facing Nigerian exporters under the African Continental Free Trade Area.
It was a high-powered gathering as the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria Export Promotion Group held a crucial stakeholders roundtable in Lagos to address pressing challenges facing non-oil exporters.
The future is bright.
The guest speaker, Professor Olawale Ogunkola, highlighted the fundamental issues facing Nigerian exporters, which are making locally produced goods uncompetitive within the African continent, and emphasized the need for consistent macroeconomic policies and improved infrastructure to reduce the cost of export operations.
Let us cancel all those incentives and address the challenges. Number one, under the behind the border trade finance, the issue of access to credit, and not only that, the interest rate, foreign currency and exchange rate, competition policy, private sector participation, and the one that I mentioned in passing, hard infrastructure.
On his part, the Director General of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Segun Ajayi Kadir, commended the influential Export Promotion Group's efforts, noting that improving Nigeria's export performance is key to economic stability and industrial growth.
So we are seeing a situation where all the reforms that we are having and all those activities to facilitate trade that we are having in the country will better make us appealing for collaboration, both bilateral and multilateral. It will also ensure that we do not fail to achieve scale in terms of the process that we receive.
The chairman of MANEG, Mrs. Odiri Erewa Megason, who was unanimously re-elected for a second term in office, concluded the event with a renewed pledge to champion the cause of exporters.
So one of the things that we're asking is that we move away from promissory notes. Promissory note means that it's a debt to the government, right? We want to move back to export credit certificates. So it's almost as you are earning as you export and you repatriate your proceeds back. So putting in place measures and stopgap to ensure that exporters actually do export, they bring their proceeds back within the confines of the law, and those that qualify through the NEPC audit process get their export credit certificate so they can reinvest it into Nigeria and put made in Nigeria goods on the global map.
Awards were also presented to some dignitaries by the Executive Council of MANEG, with special recognition accorded to an EXCO member for his decade-long service. With a successful outcome of this gathering by members of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria Exporting Group, MANEG, the expectation now rests on the government to fast-track economic and trade policy reforms to translate Nigeria's non-oil export potential into tangible economic gains within the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement.
Let's follow up on that and other conversations around the manufacturers with the Director General, whom you saw there at that event. The Director General of Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Mr. Segun Ajayi Kadri, joins us virtually this morning. Mr. Ajayi Kadri, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning and thank you for having me.
Great. So we see there you were at that event, the Maneng event, talking about exports and AFCFTA. What would you say would be a major takeaway from that meeting that you had?
Thank you again. The Man Export Group is the arm of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria that concerns itself with export of members' products, which means that we'll naturally be concerned with how those binding constraints that limit our capacity to export and have market penetration and market access in other economies, in other countries of the world. So our takeaway from here is that we are looking forward to, in spite of the challenges we have domestically, how we'll be able to increase our chances of profitable export outside of the country. We looked at the regulatory frameworks, we looked at the infrastructure that supports export. We also looked at those reforms that needed to be made by government so that our capacity to export will be accelerated, will be improved upon, and so that we do not just have a situation where we only say our aspiration of being an exporting country and we don't take deliberate and intentional steps to be able to achieve them. And like you said, we brought in experts from the academia, from government, from the private sector, and even from our partners from outside of the country to examine these issues and then to be able to co-create an atmosphere that will allow us to export successfully and bring in the much needed forex, for instance, and our capacity to scale, because there's a direct correlation between your capacity to export and your capacity to scale. If you are able to produce for the domestic market, you expand, you are able to also produce for the external markets. That's basically what was highlighted during this annual general meeting of the Man Export Group of Man.
All right, another conversation that seems to be coming out of the export group is the issue of scrap metal. We know that the export of scrap metal from Nigeria is prohibited. It's part of the country's broader strategy to protect domestic manufacturing industries and ensure that local factories have a steady supply of raw materials. Well, that means that, among other things, no export license for scrap metal. The Nigerian Customs Service includes scrap metals on its official export prohibition list. And then there was that incident in Kenya in 2022 where Kenya was plunged into darkness after Kenya Power lost supply along part of its high voltage transmission power line because of vandals. And we've also seen it here in Nigeria. So is this a challenge for local manufacturers, the export of scrap metals, which is in the absolute prohibition list, but we hear that there are still elements of export going on around that. I wonder if this has come to your notice.
Yes, I mean, this is a very important matter because it is concerning that we are having a situation where criminality, illegal activities is being perpetrated by those who are anxiously and, committedly gathering scrap for export. And the challenge here is that those who perpetrate this activity, even though it is prohibited, go into criminality because they vandalize government infrastructure and even private sector infrastructure, including those in telecoms and those for electricity power supply, in order for them to be able to aggregate enough for them to sell outside of the country. Apart from this vandalism, which is inimical to our national economic and social development, we also have a situation where even those who collect rightly or legally are having to aggregate and export, denying domestic manufacturers and recycling companies from having the feedstock that they require for their manufacturing process. Apart from this, there's also the issue of even exporting raw materials, so to say, and then having to import, when they have been processed, you have to import it at much higher cost. So it is a problem for industries, it is a problem for government in terms of the revenue it will have gotten, and in terms of the infrastructure that is being destroyed. And at the same time, it's not good for the environment. It is like we're intentionally creating unemployment in Nigeria and employment outside of the country. So it bodes no good for anyone. And the fact of the matter is that these nefarious activities take place with a lot of violence and a lot of criminality, such that the customs organization that is set up to be able to enforce the law regarding this prohibition will be overwhelmed. And because these people come in armed. I was having a conversation with one of my members yesterday who said to me that anyone who stands in the way of these scrap metal exporters may pay for it with his life. And this becomes very concerning. And the industries who even have information about where these things are taking place are actually afraid. That's what one of them said to me. So I think it is a very serious situation, and government needs to be intentional and ardent at preventing this drain on our economy. It is not good for the manufacturers, it is not good for job creation, it is not good for revenue for government, and it's not good for our social life.
But I wonder how, because I wanted to ask, what are the customs officers doing since it's it's in their purview. But you painted a picture there of violence. I wonder how you think this can be sorted. We talk about porous borders in Nigeria. I'm sure that's also contributing to that. We've talked a whole lot about employing technology in dealing with these porous borders and things like that. But I mean, when it now threatens life of law enforcement agents, then I wonder what else we can do to actually solve this problem.
So I think there has to be greater collaboration among the agencies of government, because it is not ghosts that deal in these illegal activities, and they reside in communities where you have other Nigerians residing. So I think there has to be collaboration between the police, but of course customs will take the lead, and they are doing their best, but the truth of it is that it is still happening. So if we have this collaboration between maybe the police, the Nigerian Customs Service, and even the security agencies, they should work with local communities, the elders, the youths, the traditional rulers, and so on, because all these activities, from the information we have, they assemble those things in the suburbs, and then they manage to ferry them outside of the country. It is important that we also have a point where people can aggregate and legally exchange those scrap. So when you have people who go to pick them, there will be designated places where you only go there to sell the scrap. Then if you are now seen anywhere else with scrap, you may have to explain what you are doing with it. We should also do it in such a way that we are able to have collaboration and cooperation with external bodies and government institutions outside of the country, so that they will not allow those who are illegally exporting these things outside of the country to have entrance in those countries. There's an international arrangement that is actually focused on ensuring that we are able to moderate the menace that has become of scrap metal export and exchanges. It is generally seen to be accompanied by criminal activities. And that should be a basis for asking for collaboration from other countries of the world, so that we are able to stop this menace.
Mr. Secretary, I also think that perhaps, I mean, look at the new second Niger bridge. I know we had a report some months ago to say that the manhole covers, the railings are being removed. Perhaps we should also look at securing it from that point. Although I wonder how, is it a CCTV? Is it having officials manning those areas? In Abuja, for instance, the manholes, I mean, a lot of those covers have been taken away. And I'm sure it is from there that they have these scraps that they actually export.
Well, yes, even though I didn't hear most of what you said because I think the network is bad, but I do get it that people go to cut away government infrastructure. You mentioned the manhole in Abuja. It is very important that government improves on the use of technology to be able to check those the perpetrators of this crime, of this economic crime, and then be able to stop them in their tracks. It is very, very important that we understand it as not only, because some people say they are just trying to make a living. I mean, that's a very pedestrian argument. We need to know that those items are socially owned. They belong to government. It's our responsibility as citizens of the country to ensure that we guarantee their safety, and we should do it in collaboration with government. So government should use technology, but it's also important that the people support government in this regard. I'm not sure of our readiness to have CCTV cameras covering everywhere, and how effective it will be if we do not have human beings actively supporting government in this regards. Our security agencies have to up their game, but the citizens of the country must also support, so that we all see it as in our own enlightened self-interest, if I could use that, to help the agencies to succeed. It is actually becoming a very, very serious matter. to the extent that our local recyclers and producers are crying out that they do not have enough scrap. What should have helped us to clean our environment and in the same process create an industry that will benefit government in revenue and lead to greater employment is lacking in a big country like Nigeria.
Yeah, so many potentials, but leakages also persist. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule, Mr. Kadri, to join us on this conversation. He's the Director General of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Mr. Segun Ajayi Kadri.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's take a break now. When we come back, agribusiness, integrated one, will be our conversation. Please stay with us. You're welcome back. Now, the Society for Corporate Governance in Nigeria believes that at the heart of every sustained development, both in the public and the private sector, is good governance. And they had their 20th anniversary conference, and that was the core of their conversation. The conversation around corporate governance in Nigeria receives a boost at the 20th anniversary of the Society for Corporate Governance in Nigeria's conference. The realities of today differs from what was obtainable before now. The keynote speaker sets the pace.
The board should foster an open and inclusive culture that encourages transparent communication and allows for the discussion of concepts, concerns, ensuring that potential issues are identified before they escalate into a crisis. A strong ethical culture is built on a clear governance framework, which could include creating a code of conduct specifically for the board that outlines clear expectations and provides guidance for making tough ethical decisions. The workforce is also changing. Employees consist of Gen Zs, Gen Xs, very different from the way that we were in our corporate organization, and we need to understand the way that they think, the way they behave, and what they want. They're becoming more vocal, they're becoming more demanding of their employers. And ethical governance is about building a culture where employees feel respected and heard, which in turn strengthens the entire organization. Still on diversity, typically board seats are earned based on successful corporate and entrepreneurial careers. The implication of this is that boards have been populated with slightly older people that are coming in with relevant experience and expertise. while this is invaluable, I would argue that the disruption that we face today demand more than a single perspective on any issues that the board is dealing with.
The panel discussion digs deeper into how corporate governance can be expanded in both the public and private sectors.
We've seen the rules by the Central Bank of Nigeria. So I'll say we have made progress, but there's still a lot to do. Where do I see the most gaps? Clearly, I see a lot of gaps in the public sector. So if you think about public sector entities, including some that are state-owned enterprises and they're for business or for profit, we don't seem to, in Nigeria up till now, to recognize that we can have two sets of rules. One rule for set of rules for the private sector and another one for the public sector.
So your strategy, you must ensure that you provide a risk framework which will encourage innovation and identify key risks in maybe legal, reputational, financial, whatever the key risk areas are, but at the same time, not frustrate the management. But at the same time, you need to be able to, if management does come up with new innovations, you have to be able to challenge in a way that is encouraging for them to discuss. Challenge does not mean shut you down. It is to be able to raise all the key issues.
The society says it will continue to preach the message of ethical leadership as a necessity for business sustenance in the country. Now let's discuss integrated agribusiness. In Nigeria, there's a national integrated agribusiness agenda and initiative of the Nigeria Agribusiness Group as designed to provide a comprehensive strategy for transforming Nigeria's agricultural sectors with a core focus on empowering small-scale producers and recognizing agribusiness as a cornerstone of the country's economy. It emphasizes significant contribution of GDP, employment, food security, and rural development. It also offers critical analysis of key challenges facing the sector, such as inadequate infrastructure, limited access to finance, inefficient supply chains, and outdated technology. And we have the components of the National Integrated Agribusiness. They're looking at small-scale producers to address their challenges, access to finance. That's top on the list among all other things. So we have some individuals also who are pushing this agenda from their own side. And one of them is Dr. Emmanuel Wycliffe, is the founder and chief executive officer of HTF Innovative Products Manufacturing Limited, right here in the studio. Dr. Wycliffe, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning and nice to meet with you.
Great. So obviously from the name, integrated agribusiness is supposed to combine the different aspects of agriculture and all, and it's supposed to give a wholesome production for the nation. And we've heard enough of the threat of food insecurity, even this year in Nigeria. And yes, we have a lot of potential. So what difference does this approach of integrated agribusiness, what difference does it make?
Okay, like you mentioned, this is a holistic approach. Just like for anything to succeed, you have to look at it from a strategic point of view that is futuristic, and we'll be able to handle each problem at every stage along the line. It's quite possible to try to fix a problem at one point, but you have to look at the origin. And as you mentioned earlier, the government has an integrated solution. We take it a step backward and forward. Okay. So we're looking at this, just like I mentioned initially, a holistic approach. And earlier on, I was watching, I'm a fan of the Channel News, and I was watching most of the eminent individual that has been on the show. Earlier, just before I came in, there's a mention of agriculture and manufacturing, which is what we do. This project combines everything together that irrelevant of what is happening in the market. still able to sustain itself, still able to provide job, still able to provide food for the people, and merge the subsistence farmers, the small farmers, and everybody in between together to make it work. Also, we look further into the future, between now and 2050. There's more talk about population growth. Just before I came in, the population of Nigeria is 888 plus counting. By 250, it's going to be 400 plus and counting. So we look at the whole thing between now and 25 years from now. Now, 25 years may be a distant future, but it's right around the corner.
But doesn't the advantages of specialization and the threat of jack of all trades,
Yes.
master of none, doesn't it come into play here?
No, not at all. Because it addresses a specific solution to a specific area that is plaguing Nigeria for some time now. We specifically look at, this is what is called Blue Ocean Strategy. We'll solve a problem that affects everything else in between.
Could you give us an example to help us understand it better?
For example, you have the cattle herders and the farmers' problem. That is there, is not going to go away. The solution to that is what we are providing. That because since I've been in country since August, I've gone across northern states and some southeastern state and south state. You see cattle on the road, and how long can that go? Those cattle are looking for food, they're looking for water, they don't mean any harm. That is what we are addressing. If we're able to address that and contain it, and every cattle owner and farmers will benefit from us because we include them.
Tell us how this approach will solve that problem.
Okay, it will take the cattle off the road in the first place, because those cattle herders, they are driving towards the market. We buy it from them. So, and then we encourage them to bring us more of their cows to buy. The owner of the cattle itself is an individual or maybe some corporation that wants to get paid. When those cattle leave from their point of origin, by the time they get to the market, they are much more skinnier than they were before. So we take care of that, and we take care of them off the road, and then we raise them, feed them. All this is going to be in the rural communities. So we address unemployment in rural communities. We address vandalism, or what leads to that. And then we also provide jobs for those that are graduating, those that have graduated, and those that will be graduating. We increase employment, rural development, infrastructures, and roads, and you'll see the migration from the congested city into the rural area that is going to be developed on this project, as a result of this project that we're working on. So it encapsulates everything. It provides a living wage for people, which is what has been on the news all along since I've been here. And I've been studying this condition since 2017 before I decided to come over here. So everything is inclusive. It goes state by state. It's not based on hope, but it's based on reality. And it's also based on most conservative estimates. So we underestimate the results, knowing that the outcome is a whole lot better than that.
Okay, so you buy the cattle along the way. You don't wait for them to get to the market, and you deal with it in the rural areas.
Yes.
But your market is still mostly in the urban area.
Yes. Now, we don't buy it along the way. We go to where they are, so they don't have to leave that area and get on the street or in people's farms. We go to them. You have this to sell, or they call us. We go pick it up from there, put it in on the area where we have secured in the rural area to take care of that. Now, we're also going to be doing meat processing and dairy processing. We're also going to be having manufacturing. We're going to be having electrification. We're going to be having processing, feed processing, fence making process, manufacturing. That's the reason why you see A&M in our company name, and agriculture and manufacturing. So that, because when you bring the cattle to a place, I've raised cattle now for about 21 years in Texas. So I have an idea, and I work with the USDA for about 7 years. So I was livestock engineering design. So I did all those watering system, well system, and along the line and piping. So all those experiences I'm bringing to bear. Plus I also have experience in environmental management.
Have you brought in the Nigerian factors? Yes, you have been successful in Texas.
Yes.
But as we speak, a lot of farmers do not go to the farm because of insecurity. You talk about how you're going to get it done in the rural. There's electricity, storage facility, preservation. And even when you have done all of that, you still have to get it back to your market because that's where you're going to make your money from.
Yes.
The infrastructure, the logistics involved, have you captured those in your plans?
Everything is in our plan, even up to when it gets to the market. There's also always a multiplier effect that for every job that we create, there's going to be 4 to 5 jobs that is going to be created. And because we're trying to create wealth, we don't want to do everything. We want to give entrepreneurs, small business people, opportunities to grow out of us, so that they will be able to get loan, which is something that is mentioned all across the line since I've been here, that is difficult for small business people to get a loan. But when there's a market, there's a product for the market, and they have place how to take it to where they're going, because the market is already there. Nigeria import about 90% of their milk, dairy products into Nigeria. I do have friends in Texas that still ship containers of rice to the country. Now, is rice produced in Nigeria? Yes, it is. But is it shipped out? Yes, it is shipped out. But yet, Nigeria is still importing. So we have stages along the line. As soon as this ground is secured, as soon as we start planting, start building our manufacturing plants, all this process is going to be in tandem. That will take everything we make. If we don't use it on our place, location, it's going to be sold out within the country, outside the states, and outside the country. So all this is already planned out. Is a 7-year.
Are you working with any government, federal, states, local?
Yes.
Because you need government licenses.
Yes.
Even for you to get your place of operation,
Yes.
the movement of your equipment and all of that.
Yes, we've been working since last year. We've been working with some states in Nigeria, 12 as a matter of fact. They already heard
12
about
states. What parts of the country?
in the north central, in the southeast, and south. We've made the attempt at southwest, but there's been some challenges, and then which is not insurmountable. But where we have challenges, we keep them in the loop, but we focus on where we have been received and we have been encouraged, and it's been an overwhelming success.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes. Thank you.
Because, I mean, issues like land titling, and we hear those things are like hindrances to some of these projects.
There's a good point you brought up. Some people will say land grabbing, which is different from what we're doing. What we're doing is that when we get the land, the government owes the title to the land until certain conditions are fulfilled. Then we'll buy it from completely outright. So it's going to belong to the company. When we create jobs, when we start building, developing, when the roads are there, and we meet all those conditions, then the transfer exchange comes in, plus the taxes. The government, each state will have equity, 10% equity in the project for perpetuity. They're going to be collecting tax. We'll collect it for them just like every company does, and then we'll send it back to the government. Everything is transparent. Yes.
So you're working with state governments?
Yes.
Wow. Well, we certainly do wish you success. I mean, because a rich country like Nigeria shouldn't be talking about the threat of food insecurity. And yes, we have that hanging over our head. So we certainly hope that this works, and then we'll see the results.
Me too.
All right, thank you so much. Dr. Emmanuel Wycliffe is the founder and chief executive officer of HTF Innovative Products Manufacturing Limited.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here. And
Great.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you.
Yes.
All right, so from agribusiness to the oil and gas, where the sector seems to be recording a major milestone as President Bola Tinubu commissioned the country's very first indigenous onshore crude oil export terminal, the Otakikpo Oil Terminal, located in Ikuru Town, Andoni local government area of Rivers State, represented by the Minister of State for Petroleum, Heineken Lukwebiri. The president described the project as a bold expression of the renewed hope agenda for local participation and economic transformation.
Developed by Atlantic Terminal Infrastructure Limited, a subsidiary of Green Energy Nigeria Limited, the Otakikpo Oil Terminal represents Nigeria's first fully indigenous onshore terminal. Construction began in the second quarter of 2023 and was completed in the first quarter of 2025. The first phase of the project cost over $400 million, while total development is projected to exceed $1.3 billion. It has a storage capacity of 750,000 barrels, expandable to 3 million barrels, and can process 360,000 barrels of crude oil per day.
This project is very significant because one of the biggest challenges we have in the oil and gas industry has to do with evacuation. I believe that this terminal will not only serve green energy, but it will serve all the operators contiguous, to this particular, export terminal. It aligns properly, with our own objectives as a government to ramp up production, expand, our crude oil, infrastructure.
For the company, it's a dream realized. The chairman and chief executive officer of Green Energy International Limited, the parent company to Atlantic Terminal Infrastructure Limited, says the facility underscores the resilience and capability of local investors to deliver world-class infrastructure.
Your guidance, your commitment to transparency ensure that this project is timely delivered. To the financial community, we extend our appreciation for your faith in indigenous operator. I remember when we started taking our stories and going from banks to banks, your backing has enabled us to demonstrate the confidence that Nigerian homegrown companies can deliver at global standards.
Only for international.
In his remarks, the chief executive of the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, Dr. Benga Komalafe, noted that the project will boost crude oil transactions and enhance operational transparency in line with regulatory standards.
It enhances Nigeria's crude evacuation system, with national production currently in the range of 1.7 to 1.8 million barrels per day. The efficiency of evacuation and export is critical. By creating an alternative export hub in Rivers State, the Otakikpo terminal reduces over-reliance on existing terminals.
For the host communities, as well as other stakeholders, the project brings renewed hope.
A day when our land becomes the proud host of a monumental national asset.
At the heart of the Andoni nation. It's something we're very happy about, and it also underscores the fact that when peace returns a land, prosperity can truly happen to the people. And this just signals that opportunity for the entire John nation, but particular the Andoni people.
High points of the event is a tour of the terminal, which sits on several hectares of land, by the president's representative and other dignitaries led by the chairman of the company. Deborah Balama, Channels Television News.
Let's take a break now. When we come back, we'll head for Global News. Please stay with us. Global news now. Jefferies has downgraded HSBC Holdings PLC, the London-based global bank, to hold from buy ratings, citing reduced upside after the removal of $8.5 billion of planned share buybacks from the third quarter of 2025 through the first quarter of 2026. The brokerage said that the buyback curtailment significantly diminishes the appeal of HSBC's investment case despite strong profitability forecast. Jefferies said that the planned privatization of the Hang Seng Bank, valued at $13.7 billion, is expected to be EPS neutral before synergies. The deal includes a suspension of buybacks for 3 quarters, which offsets an otherwise 4% accretive impact to earnings. While Jefferies described management's rationale for the acquisition as sensible, it flagged the timing and capital allocation as potential concerns. Revised estimates from Jefferies lifted HSBC's 2025 and 2026 adjusted forecast by 10 and 12% respectively, reflecting higher non-interest income and improved operating expense control. Analysts at Goldman Sachs Group Incorporated have cut their recommendation in euro-denominated high-grade bonds by banks to underweight less than 3 months after ending their overweight on the sector. Banks' bonds are now trading at even tighter spreads than the rest of the market, which leaves limited value in keeping a neutral allocation on the sector. This is the observation of analysts connected to the banks. And in Czech, inflation slowed in September to the weakest pace in 5 months, but domestic price pressures are likely to keep the central bank cautious about lowering interest rates. Consumer prices increased 2.3% from a year earlier, less than 2.6% the central bank expected for the month. This is according to readings from the Statistics Office. The slowdown was caused mainly by food items, while the cost of services maintained a faster growth pace at 4.7%. And just when the bank began to turn a corner from its $12 billion bond debacle, the Japanese lender is facing questions over how its joint venture became the most exposed to the First Brands Group bankruptcy. Well, the bank's Japanese trading house Mutsi & Co. are the biggest shareholders in Mutsi Leasing Limited, while wholly owned by unit Katsumu Global extended $1.75 billion in trade financing to First Brands, the auto parts supplier that filed for Chapter 11 protection last month, was also sharing this report. And connected to that, the yen steadied on Friday, but is set for its steepest weekly drop in a year due to fast receding chances of a near-term rate hike, while the euro was rooted near 2-month lows as traders braced for France's 6th prime minister in less than 2 years. The yen edged up 0.2% to 152.7 for a dollar, but remained close to the weakest level since mid-February that it hit on Thursday. The Japanese currency is on pace for a 3.5% drop in the week. That's its biggest decline since October last year. This provides the need for an early start for trading. That's it in global news. Let's see what's happening in the Nigerian stock market. Yesterday was a green day, but at early trade, we see profit taking has set in. The market is down 0.05%, but it's still sustaining that 146,000 level. At intraday at about 1:30, Business Incorporated will be here to give you updates from the market and, of course, other stories, especially around Africa, right here on Channels Television. I'm Ini John McWell. I'll see you at 1:30.